This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome, everybody out there listening on KFWB News Talk 980, our flagship station, or on Extreme Talk XM1 channel 165, or on the World Wide Web at KLEANradio.com. I got my furry friend back, Andrew Spanzovic.
What's with this furry friend
Well, you have a beard.
I have a beard makes furry.
Yeah, it's
wow,
fur.
That's just unbelievable.
It's
the things. I don't know. Okay.
Well, welcome back.
All right. Well, thank you for the welcome back.
It's good to have you back, my friend.
I'll take furry. You know, furry is a kind thing.
Yeah, furry is a kind thing.
People like stuffed animals and
women love furry,
right? Kittens. You know,
that's what you have to tell yourself. But let's welcome everybody out there.
On my face. That's
why don't you tell them a little bit about this show?
Yeah, we're a great show that's been going now on our third season, and we deal with addiction and recovery issues, as well as issues with mental health. And we'd like to talk to people out there that are having problems with alcohol or drug abuse or other problems, including depression and other psychiatric problems. But also we'd like to talk to and hear from people that are in recovery or have recovered and how it's changed their lives, and give good examples to people that are out there trying to make a decision about maybe becoming sober or not.
You know, I wanted to talk about something very important. You know, both of us, you know, last week I called you on the phone. I had to do a show. I called you beforehand, and I got, I was trying to get suggestions from you.
You can name the show, right?
It was called The Young Turks, and they had me in as the conservative, like to beat up. And I think I handled myself very well.
You did. There was a big table between you and the guy.
Yeah, thank God. And it was really intimidating. But I called you first, and we talk a lot. And one of the things we talk about, you're a major gun enthusiast, and which I love. I'm not, but I don't care about.
And I would never let you get near a gun.
Right, exactly right. Nor do I care about you having a gun. But the reason I'm talking about this was last week, we're both also huge sports fans, and last week during the NBC.
Oh, congratulations, by the way, for beating my team.
My Giants beat your Saints. Yeah. And last week, Bob Costas gets on this whole soliloquy about gun control during the game. And because of the NFL player that sadly shot, horrifically shot his girlfriend, and
then killed himself.
In
front of all the players.
Yeah, and the coach. I mean, just how you're right. He went from selfish to he went from the most selfish of selfish acts.
I think that's mischaracterized. I really do. I think that most people that get to the point where they have suicidal and homicidal ideation, and then certainly actions like this guy, are actually in a lot of pain.
Tremendous.
And they really feel trapped, and there's no way out. And we don't really know the specifics about what was going on with his case, but we do know from a lot of other cases like that people feel disenfranchised, alienated, they don't have anyone to speak to, they feel trapped in whatever situation is going on, and they literally feel there's no other choice. So you have to imagine the desperation of someone like that to go to that extreme. So I think it's something not to take lightly, or just say that it's just a freak accident.
Well, no, that's definitely...
And we see these things happening more and more.
Right,
so.
But on top of that, though, one of my complaints was Bob Costas getting on the National Football League talking about gun control, because it's not about gun control.
Well, he should be talking about mental health,
right,
and the
about
fact
mental health
that
issues.
People need to be able to speak to people.
Right.
Especially like in the NFL where everybody's all pumped up on steroids, and they're all the whole masculine macho thing, and I can't have a problem and I can't share it. Right. That was the issue. It wasn't gun control.
Right, and talk about too. I mean, then this weekend, sadly, an NFL player was drunk driving and killed a player on his team. One of his best friends, college roommate. And he's in jail right now. I'm guessing he's not feeling too great. And you're not going to hear Bob Costas tonight talk about on NBC how we should curb drinking in America or curb drunk
not
driving.
With alcohol being the major
sponsor.
sponsor.
Not with Budweiser being their biggest sponsor. And, and I was thinking about this. I was like, why do bars have parking lots?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I mean, and I was thinking, why? I mean, 7-Eleven
because they serve really good peanuts.
Right. I mean, or why do bars in America have valets? And I mean,
a lot of these things are legacies, though, of a culture that's changed dramatically since the 70s. I mean, it used to be nothing for people to, go to a bar, drink, and then drive home drunk.
Right.
And in fact, as we've had guests explain in the past, reckless driving was actually the bad ticket to get. A drunk driving ticket was not really that big a deal. And it wasn't until Mothers Against Drunk Driving came along in the 70s and 80s and really pushed hard for stricter guidelines and laws and penalties for people that were caught drinking and driving.
And we're not for prohibition, by the way. This isn't like we're telling people out there, but this is the holiday time.
Right.
And people out there, last night I was at a party, and in the canyon, in the Hollywood Hills, and I left the party at about 1 a.m. The road was extremely foggy.
Right.
Now, I couldn't see. My girlfriend had to tell me that I was in the wrong lane. Okay? I was really in the wrong lane on Mulholland Drive. I was sober.
Right.
Now, I know there were people at this party that were leaving that weren't sober.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't hear, and it's just around this time, call a cab.
Yeah. It always amazes me. People are like, well, the problem is the chance of getting caught drinking and driving is about 1 in 2,000. For every time someone drinks and drives, only 1 in 2,000 will get pulled over.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, some people get casual about it. They get lazy. They don't think it's a big deal.
28 people every day die from drunk driving. And, that's an amazing, that's not counting the people that are maimed or the people that they killed or the people,
Well, clearly it's a problem.
Right.
I did hit my first sobriety checkpoint ever, though, the other day, which I was kind of...
Isn't it the greatest feeling when you're sober?
Yeah, it's
and
like
you see a
they go to
sobriety
me, they go,
checkpoint?
"You've been drinking?" I go, "Actually, I'm sober."
You almost want to get up to them. You can't wait. You're like, "Come on, it's my turn." You're like, "Give me that test."
Right? How many times you dreaded that,
Oh my
drinking and
God.
driving, and there you are. You can just get to, roll right through.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K. Give us a call at 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We have an amazing show, actually, for you tonight. We always have an amazing show, but tonight it's one of my loves in life. Our guests, my guests aren't the loves of my life, but what they do is...
They look very relieved.
Yeah,
I've never seen such relief in my
They're
life.
They're like, "Oh, thank God, that's why he had us in." But one of my biggest things, and I know you're like this too, Andrew, is that, and this is what I was talking to you about the other night, and we were talking about, fixing the system. That the system in America, that with healthcare and all these things is so broke. But what's the best way to fix the system is by getting to the people before they get into the system, which is teenagers and kids in our society.
Well, I think certainly prevention is a huge part, but
Yeah.
also, this is something that's not going to go away.
No.
So we definitely have to have all levels of care. I'm very excited to hear what our guests have to say
And with that,
about working with youth.
let's welcome
younger people.
from the Teen Project, Lauri L. Burns. I learned the L stands for Lynn. And welcome to KLEAN Radio, Lauri.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. And let's welcome Jane Dawson from the Teen Project, too. And
thank you.
All around great people. We're sorry for hitting you.
Anytime, that's fine.
And that's what they always say. And welcome you guys to KLEAN Radio. Thank you for coming in. What is the Teen Project?
The Teen Project is providing youth that exit the foster care system, they call it emancipation, with an equal chance at life. Because for those of you that don't know, when kids leave the system, foster care, group home, juvenile hall, on their 18th birthday, many times they're homeless.
Not by choice.
Right.
So the Teen Project picks up where the law falls short by providing them with housing and an education and everything that you'd need to get an equal chance at life to be successful. Because
This is
I'll
a
go into a lot
nonprofit, privately funded, or is it
correct.
government grants?
It's
or-
all
All
private.
private.
It's all private
private.
funded.
That's
yes,
great.
it is.
Yeah.
And all of us are volunteers.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
We're a national organization. We have 500 volunteers and one full-time employee.
So
That's you.
I'm one of them, yes. Jane and I are one of
So
them.
I think that's extremely important to talk about because, they get out of foster care and they're basically, I didn't even know this, is that they're said, that's it. You're done.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And
At
they-
18.
At 18, and then they have to figure out where to go after this.
Oh.
Yeah, could you imagine? Truthfully,
Thank
if
God
you
I
look at the
can.
statistics, average kids living at home with their parents are supported by their parents till about age 26, 27.
Right.
I have my own 30-year-old, so I remember that. So
My
to
parents
let
are
a
still
kid-
helping me out. I'm 45.
Mine too, and I'm 36. We're about
Emotionally, if not physically.
Yeah, we're about honesty.
So you just see what I'm saying. And, the normal kid at 18 living at home with their parents knows a lot. They know a lot more than these system kids do because they've had a checking account or a savings account. They've had an ATM card maybe. They've had a cell phone. System kids don't have any of that.
Right.
They have no idea how to
a lot
live
of them
life.
have been shuffled in and out of the foster care system, so they have not had a
Well,
consistent
a lot of them
home.
are really institutionalized. I used to
Yes.
own an adolescent psychiatric hospital back in I won't date myself.
64.
It was in somewhere in the 90s. Anyway, but I was shocked by, 12, 13-year-olds that were so institutionalized. It was like almost equivalent to working with people that worked in minimum security prisons.
Right.
And, it wasn't, they had the same behaviors of guardedness, fear, anxiety, and just
Early on.
Yeah, very early on, and unapproachable, and that weird sense of individualism where they felt like the only person they could trust was themselves.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
so-
then they're placed, right? We try to find homes, loved ones, family members, and most of them have a lot of problems, addictions. So there's really no safe place for them to go.
Do foster care parents often pick up and
Yeah,
also help?
that's an interesting subject right there.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little background, I was in the system. I grew up in the system. I aged out to homelessness. I was already addicted to intravenous cocaine use. Then I went to heroin, kind of a little detox savings plan to get off the coke. Anyway, that's a longer story. But I ended up homeless and working the streets as a prostitute. But I only thought that was my own bad luck. I mean, I had always thought I had bad luck. You know how we are.
Yeah.
And then I became a foster mom when I was in my early 20s. And it was at the point where I had 18 foster kids. I mean, I had that many that had passed
you were
through my
using
home.
while you were
No,
No.
yeah, I was
Let
about
me
to say
back up
that.
a minute here.
You got sober when you were 19.
I got sober when I was 23.
23.
Yeah, 23.
Oh,
and I'm
19 was a
almost
different number.
I'm almost 26
And what
years
made that
sober
happen?
now. I was actually working the streets in Santa Ana, picked up by two gunmen taken in the woods with the intention of taking my life.
Wow.
And it was a very bad night, very traumatic, and I believed I was going to die that night. And, as someone who's so addicted and had already lost everything, I begged that they would kill me. I screamed that they would kill me. And the night was intervened upon by a stranger who I call my angel, saved my life, and then orchestration of events. And I got sober the next day, and I went to a recovery home for a year. And
That's interesting
Very-
because,
yeah.
I always say that most people that are, shooting IV drugs, they're pretty much suicidal. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
right,
a suicidal
yeah,
action.
yeah.
And you're pretty much there anyway.
Yeah.
But here's something even more traumatic than shooting drugs, which is sort of a semi-self-destructive suicidal act.
Yeah.
Happens, and it's other people affecting you, and that is what was it that someone helped you that gave you a sense of hope, or was it that? Or was it you were scared more?
You know what I think it was? You get a chance to look back now that you're sober. I was at death's door. I mean, it was literally you're in the car with two violent gunmen.
And it was more immediate
being
than
raped
shooting
and
up.
beat up, and then all of a sudden they've got to, they're going to kill you, and you're screaming to kill it. You're sure this is the end, right? You're in the woods, nobody's there, they got a gun, they're angry, you're already beaten up, and they know if you recognize them, they're in trouble. So being at death's door and then waking up with another person picking me up and saving me, of course, was just too hard for me to comprehend. And I think just the whole orchestration of events was a state of shock that I couldn't jolt myself out of. Does that make sense
Yeah,
to you?
no, absolutely.
Yeah, so, and the man that saved my life that day, I didn't even trust him. I had been through a lot. I have a book called Punished for Purpose that goes more into detail that's
You
out
get
there.
that on
that you can
Amazon?
get. Yeah,
Is
it's
that-
on Amazon. I say Punished for Purpose because obviously I went through this traumatic childhood, and then it almost ends that day on the street, and then it all starts again. And it's because of everything that I went through as a kid that I was able to do everything that I'm doing now with Jane and the whole organization. So so I get a couple years clean. I get an abused kid comes to my door. All of a sudden, a long stretch of events, but I become a foster mom. I'm 18th kid into being a foster mom. So now I'm like in my late 30s before I realized that the other foster parents are not keeping them. So, most people don't even know do you know any foster parents?
Actually, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't either.
That's
Right?
really strange.
Yeah.
So-
I don't know a lot of parents. I live in LA, but
I knew foster kids that were my friends when I was growing up, but I never
Right.
really knew foster
And
parents.
there's 400,000.
Well, do you think that's
500,000.
the flaw in
Yeah.
the system is because people are so encouraged to, they get more money for each foster kid. So, we're not seeing
Well,
it
it's
as
not a
much.
lot of money.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money. They say you shouldn't be a foster parent if you're not self-sustaining through your own income.
But how
but-
many of the foster parents, that is their income?
Yeah, that's the problem right there.
Yeah.
And I've asked,
That's why we
because
don't
I've
know
served
any.
on the board in our county, and I've asked many of the social workers, why are you letting our kids stay in these kind of places, dirty places or places where people are living? Because with 90,000 kids in California, and most people don't even know a foster parent, they're taking whatever they can get.
Right.
By the way,
So
if you
if
just
it's-
tuned in, sorry, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K. Give us a call at 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We're in the studio with Lauri Burns from the Teen Project, also Jane Dawson from the Teen Project. Sorry to interrupt you.
So 90,000 kids are actually in foster care, and that's
In California.
in California,
It's
just in California.
500,000 in the United States, and 25,000 aging out every year,
Right,
and 50% of those kids going to
With
homelessness.
no resources.
right. So that's a quarter of the prison population.
Yeah.
And how many of
Definitely.
those
Yeah.
kids? You said part of your guys' thing is that at the Teen Project they can't drink, they can't do drugs.
Right.
Do they
There-
come in with the issues, or that's just the prerequisite?
Some do, and some obviously have other issues, but we find that meetings help no matter what. the
Right.
Let's hear
issues
about
are.
how you find these kids. So they find you, you find
Yeah,
them.
lots of
They
times
find
they
us.
find me. Yeah, I just have to say they find us most of the time. I don't think we're out seeking them. We've got kids that have seen us on TV or heard us on the radio or seen us in a magazine or maybe heard about us through their social worker, their CASA, and then we've got a big drop-in center where a large majority of kids in LA are
In Venice
sleeping on the
Beach.
street. So kids hear about us from all over the place. I actually had a kid call me from another country.
Wow.
So it's kind of strange, but they know we're here, and we've got, because I was one of those kids, we've got a very minimal interview process. Usually when you call one of these transitional houses, just like getting in sober living or treatment, it's like, call me back, come in for an interview. God, if you're a homeless kid, you don't have money for a bus pass. You don't even have
Right.
a phone to call back on. So it's, as soon as we get the call, we're like, where are you? And we'll transport
Lori
them to
puts
where
these
we're
kids
at.
right on the bus.
So you have
Yeah.
like a little pet
Yeah.
team, kind of like.
Yeah.
you know?
What do you mean?
Well, for mentally ill people, they have pet teams that go out and pick people up and bring them into the hospital.
We do whatever we
We do-
can.
yeah.
to
Whatever
get
you
them
can.
in.
We're outside
It's
of the
all
box, yeah.
volunteers, right?
Yeah.
So it's not.
And
We
we'll
do
get
like
them
the
assessed.
program.
If they have mental health problems, we get them assessed and get them stabilized.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. So, do you see a lot of that? I mean, obviously there must be, right? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of PTSD, anxiety,
Oh,
depression,
definitely.
suicidal
All of
ideation.
it. All of it.
Unfortunately, because of the things that they've gone through, you'd expect PTSD.
Right.
Unfortunately, these kids have been medicated so heavily through the time they're in the system, and then they've got all these diagnoses in
So
their
most of
file.
it's probably
Yeah.
developmental delays. They're just drugged
A lot of
into-
them.
Yeah.
And how long does the average kid stay?
2 years.
And then in that 2 years, they start to get the necessity, the things to
Well,
live life.
yeah, here's how it works. We pick them off of the street, and we bring them to safe housing, sobriety. They go to meetings every week. We give them free housing, free food,
College.
college
Get their
scholarships.
GED, get them in college or a trade school.
Right. So that's our priority, is getting them in school, although we have to get them sober first and then getting them in college or trade school. A lot of them have missed a lot of school, being transferred from home to home throughout the year. So we get them into any school that they're
And tutoring.
interested in with tutoring. We give them automobiles through a matching program. We give them paid job internships. We give these kids over the top because we really want them to succeed. And like I said, we run it like the program. We're all private donations, and I hate when you go on TV and you see some starving kid and they're like, okay, send $5 a month and feed the kid, and then at the end of the year you get like the annual report, and it's like, wait a minute, where did my money
10%,
go? Right?
10% went
Like,
to.
if you're lucky, right?
90% went to Sally Struthers.
Right.
To her
So-
meal.
We won't do that.
Yes. No, that's great. By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. We're having a very interesting talk tonight about stuff Andrew and I didn't know about. 90,000 kids in in California are foster kids.
Yeah.
I mean, and neither of us know a foster parent. How does somebody become a foster parent? I mean, how does that happen?
So you say you want to be a foster parent, you apply with the county, and then you have to fill out an application, TB test, and you go through classes. It's usually a couple of months. And if you pass the classes, and of course your background check comes out good, and then you also have to show that you have enough room in your house, usually an extra bedroom, and they come and check out your house and make sure it's okay. And, they find out about your background.
Right.
And if everything clears, you'd be a foster parent in a couple months.
Now there must be a lot of good foster parents, right?
I'm
There
sure
is a
there's
lot of
ton.
good foster parents.
They just don't get to meet many of them because they get the ones that.
But especially in this day in this economy,
Right.
to be able to afford to take care of somebody without any extra help past the age of 18.
Well, I got to tell you, even the people that are letting go of them at 18, some of them are good foster parents, but they don't have the income.
Right.
So, with the economy falling apart, when we have like an annual orientation for foster parents every year, and it's been kind of slim every year. And then after the economy sunk, it filled up. The room filled up because I think people realized that $600 a head, which is $20 a day to take care of a kid, doesn't sound like much on a normal day. But if you're going to lose your house and you've got 3 empty bedrooms because you're an empty nester, then bringing 3 kids in there might save your mortgage payment. Right. So we've got all these people that have moved kids in, and they may be good parents, but they can't afford it past the time they're 18.
They're both
because
working
they need to
full-time.
fill the bed.
So we deal a lot with drug and alcohol addiction. That's sort of most of what we talk about. Most of these kids that you're seeing, are they coming out of foster care with a drug and alcohol problem, or is it developing
when they're homeless?
when
usually.
as soon as this 18-year-old homeless
Right.
deal
They're
hit?
obviously predisposed, a lot of them, because their own parents are addicts and alcoholics.
Right, and that's probably
Right.
is the disproportionate number of kids in foster care have
Probably
alcoholic
over
parents?
half.
Right.
Really, over half.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's,
it's gotta-
that's
yeah.
a pretty sizable number.
Yeah, no, it's got to be. It's even more than
Most
that.
of the
Yeah,
issues
so-
stem somewhere to drug or alcohol.
And most
abuse.
foster kids know about their parents, their biological parents, yes?
Being drug addicts and alcoholics, or just in general.
Or just in general.
yeah, no, they know them. A lot of the kids that we take were taken away when they were teenagers.
Right.
So, or they were taken
Or
away when they were
shuffled around.
young, and they stayed in till they were teenagers. So, yeah,
So
they
were
know their
raised,
parents.
at least in some level of, even if foster parents are great,
Yeah.
they still have this clinging to their natural biological parents, and then they see the modeling of that behavior of drug abuse.
Well,
and
as
addiction.
did I, right? So I grew
Right.
up in an abusive home, but the kids always loved their parents. I don't care what their. I had
course.
one daughter who's just endured the worst abuse. Her dad got 126 years in prison for his sexual abuse on her and her sister and
horrible.
the other kids, and she was the one that testified. But at the same time, you've got to understand when it's your own blood, there is it's really.
It's a bond. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. She said the hardest thing I ever had to do was sit in court and point at my dad, because he's the enemy and he's also her dad. You know, so it's very difficult to have to deal with that.
What is this? And this drives me crazy. We're around holiday time, and we live in LA, and it's the most popular thing to do right now is to feed the homeless. You know, and nothing against the
For
homeless.
one day.
For one day. Right. For one day, everybody wants to get their picture taking, helping homeless guy number one,
Right.
you know, and giving him a meal. Why do not more people not know about this? I mean, this is, to me, if we don't deal with this type of issue, we're not, I mean, this is...
I believe because of the stigma
Yeah.
associated. That the stigma is that these they're lazy,
Right.
and it's
Well,
no
so
longer
we're
the
dealing
case.
with. I mean, the vast. I don't know if you have actual statistics, but most, I guess, kids that end up in foster care, it's abuse, it's poverty, it's low
addiction.
education
It's all,
levels.
yeah, it's all kinds
drug
of stuff,
you
but
know.
the majority is addiction. You look at it, drug
Right.
addicts and alcoholics, and it's that's a whole nother spin on it, right? Because I was that person. I was that drug addict. I was a heroin addict mom. I already had my kid, so when my foster kids come to me, where other foster parents might be like angry at the biological parents, like, how could they have done this? I understand. I'm an addict, So in most cases where I get a kid, if I meet their parents and their parents want help, I'll help their parents too.
But do you
let's
think you
put them in
became
a-
an addict because of genetics, or because of your environment, or because of, what?
Or does it matter?
Do you,
Both.
I mean, I was
All
very
the above.
suicidal from the
Right.
abuse, and then the drugs just
so you're
kinda helped it.
self-medicating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the parents are addicts. I mean, there are people.
Right.
So I have to defend that as well on the other side, because they can recover. I recovered. Their parents can recover. I've seen a lot of my kids' parents get better. And it's amazing. Some of the kids we've picked up off the street, you look at them and you go, okay, they must be drug addicts, right? Aaron, this one little boy that we found sleeping behind the gas station. A brilliant, smart kid, so much energy. And he's working at the poster shop to make money to bring food to his mom and
Who's
her
also homeless.
boyfriend, who's also homeless.
Well,
so he's
welfare
working during
reform
the day.
has really messed this up, right? I mean,
Completely.
So-
well, yeah, I mean, welfare reform is probably one of the biggest scandals that
Yeah,
nobody's
all
really
it,
talking
it's
about.
amazing. All of the people on the street have some kind of income coming in from the state,
75%
and it
fraudulent.
enables
Awful.
them to stay out there. So we bring Aaron in, and before we can even sign him up for school, he's already signed himself up. He'll graduate from CNC engineering
He's gonna
school on
become
the
a CNC
21st.
machinist. We've got
Yeah,
a
and we've
job.
got success story after success story of kids just saying, just give me a chance. Just give me a chance. Just put me in a bed. Just give me a safe home. I will prove it to you. I will make it. And we've got so many success stories. I could talk all night.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I was in Portland years ago, and I don't know if you guys have, obviously you've been in Portland maybe, but there's the homeless teen issue over there is insane with heroin, with the drug addiction.
Well, Seattle, Portland,
Seattle,
and
all-
San
right.
Francisco. That's
It's almost
the
like
trifecta.
right, and it's almost like separating them from the herd is probably the easy. Sometimes it's the smartest thing to do is getting them away from the 6 others. I mean, because you can't just grab 6 homeless kids off the street.
Right.
How do you? I mean, how do you discriminate? How do you?
Well, we assess when they come in, they have a full assessment done. So Lauri has a very good level of discernment and myself on which one of these kids really needs the help and is willing to go to any lengths to get it.
Right.
So we really have to take each case one at a time and see what's going on with these kids.
Just so people out there know, how many people on a nightly basis drop into your Venice Drop-In Center?
You say on a nightly basis. We close. We're in a gang neighborhood, so we close before it gets dark on most days. So we're open in the daytime, but it could be anywhere from 15 to 40 kids come in every day.
That's insane.
And again, just like the program, we want to see who wants help. Because if you're just smoking weed and you're coming in because you have the munchies, because in our drop-in center in Venice, we'll provide them with a shower. We'll let them wash their clothes. We've got a full kitchen there. You could walk in and get something to eat. You could watch TV. You could get on the computer. It's like
that's
a semi-house.
actually what originally the Mental Health Centers Act was supposed to provide under JFK. And then when he got assassinated, it got stripped by Lyndon Johnson in Congress. But there were supposed to be community centers where people could take a shower, get clothing, have a place to sleep no matter what, as well as get treated and assessed for mental illness and drug and alcohol abuse. And unfortunately, we don't have that. Let's take a call. We got a caller. We got Julie from Indiana. Julie, welcome to Clean Radio.
Thank you, and I want to thank you guys, too, for what you're doing. It's great.
Oh, no problem.
I guess my question is, I live in a small town in Indiana, and recently, just in the past month, we've had 10 kids overdose of heroin.
Right.
The 10th one being tonight, who died. 8 of them have died.
It's horrible.
And I guess my daughter's just coming home from California, actually from treatment.
Oh, wow.
This week, and we just don't have a lot of treatment options here. In the community, of course, nobody wants to talk about it because of the whole stigma thing, but, the addiction keeps living. I guess I just want to know if you guys have any idea of awareness.
Yeah, it's amazing that you're talking about this. A couple weeks ago on the show, we had a couple of the kids that were on rehab, and the Dr. Drew show, and one of them was talking about that 19 kids in his town from New Jersey had overdosed that year. Julie, we're going to keep you on hold, okay? We got to take a quick break, but we'll get right back to you, okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay, just stay on hold. If you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's Clean with a K. The number here is 888-539-2980. 888-539-2980. The discussion continues at KLEANradio.com.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, KLEANTreatmentCenter.com.
Welcome back to KLEAN Radio. We're in the studio tonight with two amazingly extraordinary women, Lauri Burns and Jane Dawson from the Teen Project. Guys, welcome back to KLEAN Radio. Let's get back to the call. We have...
we still have Julie on the line, on line one. Julie, welcome back.
Thank you.
So, Julie, what was your daughter in treatment for?
Heroin, opiate.
And I want to ask you what treatment center.
Was this prescription medication, or was it street heroin, or was it tar, or what was it? Do you know?
Street heroin.
Just street heroin.
She began to use 2 weeks after high school.
And did she go straight to heroin, do you know,
actually.
or was she using pills before that, or?
Pills. Started out with pills.
Yeah, that's prescription pills. That seems to be the case these days.
Are you a little nervous?
That she's coming home?
Yeah.
Yes, just because we don't, there's just not a lot of options here. I mean, in California, it's huge. I mean,
Right.
your guys is, I just want to applaud everything that you're doing, the stigma there, and she feels safe, but she feels safer in California than she does coming home, and that worries me. But, we're just out of money.
No,
Bottom
we
line.
totally understand.
It seems to be a common problem.
Have you yourself gone and got help, like with, free 12-step meetings for Al-Anon?
I'm an Al-Anon and Nar-Anon. I have been.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I really want you to talk about that a little bit, because we get calls constantly from people, and I'm always trying to convince them.
I'd like to hear, first of all, what's her biggest fear about her coming back right now?
Probably my biggest fear is her support network.
Mm-hmm.
Her finding that, that meeting or those, with young people. And I think I've listened to one of your recent podcasts, or it had something on there about, I don't know which one, but like she said, it's hard because there's not a lot of people her age trying
Right.
to stay sober here.
And she's not lying. I mean, it's just one of the great things about Los Angeles is we're
If you
filled.
talk to other people in the Al-Anon meetings you've been to about if, there's parents there that have kids and if there's any,
Yeah,
AA meeting
actually,
for kids.
Mine is the only one now that has not relapsed. So,
Oh, fantastic.
Wow.
well, that's just for, that's today.
Well, at least
so.
for
It's
you.
We're good today.
funny. We don't want to say congratulations because we
I
feel
know.
bad for
We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but today we're
Right.
good.
Listen, I'm going to give you a bit of... I got sober when I was 22. I got sober in Brooklyn, by the way, so I didn't know there were people, that were under 50 in AA, in Alcoholics Anonymous. I truly didn't. I didn't know there were women that didn't have tattoos and biker jackets, because that's where I got...
Especially his mother.
Yeah, but that, Julie, but that helped me in my first year. But also there are a lot of young people's meetings out there. I'm sure in Indiana... I know you're from a small, but it's a big state, and I'm sure there are many young people's meetings that your daughter could find.
You guys, honestly, I'm speaking, there truly isn't.
Oh, wow.
There are a
in the
couple of
state of
resources
Indiana.
I know from a 12-step perspective online, and they're easily findable. But also there's other resources as well. First of all, a primary therapist is always a good thing to
Yeah.
start with as well.
No money, so...
Social model programs like AA, I commend highly, but it's one small piece of the total problem. And getting through treatment is just the beginning. I mean, it's detox and then sort of an initiation into like dealing with what underlying problems might be going on, and also the addictions. So I'd be looking for a wide-based support network for her. Do you guys have any comments or
Yeah,
ideas?
I'm actually thinking when I got sober, I was 23 years old. I started the meeting at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I started putting flyers out that I've got a meeting for young people at my house.
That's a
and
great
that meeting
idea.
is still going. It's
Yeah.
25 years strong right now.
There
You don't
go.
live there anymore, though.
Also recommending
Yeah, I
that
moved a couple of times, so the meeting moves with me.
I would also
that's
recommend for your
amazing.
daughters going to seeking women's meetings.
Yeah.
And all she needs to do is find one or two great, strong women in the program to connect with. It doesn't take an army for her to have just a couple strong women that she talks to. Like Andrew said, there's some online resources. There's xa-speakers.org.
That's what I did. I used to belong to the Tape of the Month Club.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
was when we still had tapes, and every month they would
Well,
send
video
me...
chatting is getting bigger
Yeah.
and bigger, and so you can get help online chatting with 12-step communities online 24 hours a day, but it's nothing like being in person. I love the idea of starting our own meeting. I mean, why not be the person in your community that sets that up for adolescents?
The advocate, right?
Yeah.
And only
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
two
Yeah, that
or
would be
three people
great.
there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I think in Nar-Anon, we only have 5 meetings in the entire state of Indiana.
The biggest issue that I've been seeing with AA meetings and that I worry a lot about with young women is sexual predation, and also with gay males and gay females. There's a fair amount of that, and I think that it's very important that that the group be properly monitored and that people know who people's sponsor is and stuff like that, because I've seen some unfortunate cases where there's no real credential to join AA other than to be an alcoholic. And unfortunately, sometimes the wrong people are attracted to that environment. So especially with young women, I've seen a lot of cases where people have been taken advantage of. So I just
On the
keep
bright
that-
side, though...
On the bright side, if it's in your own
Make it a
home, you
women's
get to
meeting.
watch.
Yeah.
Make it a women's meeting.
Make it a women's meeting.
Maybe on the bright side,
This is a women's meeting.
And you know what?
Yeah.
That actually is a great idea, because if you're 18 years old or 19, whatever your daughter is, that's a great idea you guys are giving advice on. Put up a post somewhere on Facebook. Say, the amazing thing about social networking now is that it has made the world smaller, and sometimes for good and sometimes for bad. But in this case, she could post to her friends in Indiana and say, "Hey, I'm starting a meeting in my house on Monday nights."
I don't know about
Tuesday
the
nights.
anonymity issue. I mean, but certainly, there's ways to get the
Therapist's
message
office.
out.
Yeah.
You can put,
Yeah.
You can
there's
post
a
it, right.
local meeting going on.
So, Lauri,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Can your daughter stay in touch with her primary therapist from the treatment center that she went through?
Yes, she can.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah, that's probably, the best thing that she has going. But it took me forever. I mean, the research even to get her in where she is now, that we just had so many options. And if it wasn't for, I honestly believe that they say, with the help that she finally wanted to get clean, but they saved her life.
Right, and the treatment center
The
that she went through
treatment there
probably
is
has
so
an
much
alumni
different than it
group,
is
too, that
here.
she can be in touch with.
Yeah, she's an alumni now. She's in sober living. She's been in sober living for 3.5 months.
And I think the biggest thing that we're all saying, Julie, and we're gonna talk to you later. Call us back next week and let us know how it's going.
Mm-hmm.
Will you do that?
And just remember, it's a process. So, stay vigilant. And if she does happen to relapse, don't get angry. Just try and get her back into treatment or get help as soon as possible.
But I think the biggest thing all of us are saying is that if she actually wants it, she'll get it. If she wants to stay sober, there are enough resources out there that she could manage to do it.
Especially if she has a great mom like
Yeah,
sounds
especially.
like,
I mean, it's
Julie
amazing. You know what?
Reaching out already.
She's blessed that she has you.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
Laura,
Julie,
so
thanks
give
for
us a
calling
call.
KLEAN Radio.
Julie.
Appreciate it.
We're all
right.
confused on the names. If you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K. The number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We're in the studio tonight from the Team Project, Lauri Burns and Jane Dawson. Lauri's also written a book called Punish for Purpose, which I will procure tonight when I get home from Amazon, because Lauri has an amazing story about getting sober at the age of 23 years old. You were on the streets, held up, you almost died.
Yep.
And
That's right.
you have a 19. I think it's really cool. Your daughter you have a 30-year-old daughter. She just got married.
Yes, believe it or not, I'm pushing 50.
And I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And but I think it's really cool that you were able to you hear a lot of stories out there. I think what's amazing about your story is that obviously you've lived it, but you don't preach. You're not a preacher. You could literally tell people through the events that have transpired in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Now your daughter was 19 what were those 4 years like with a 19-year-old girl and not being sober?
Are you talking about when I was 19?
Yeah. No, you were 19 when she was born, but you got sober at 23.
That's right. What were those
So
4
4
years
years
like?
yeah.
Traumatic. I should have had her taken away. I mean, I was lucky I didn't. You figure I'm spending most of my time working the streets while she's in a motel room with some guy that just got out of prison so I could score more heroin and come back. I never beat my daughter. I told her I loved her all the time. It's a weird thing in the mind of an addict. Like, I don't abuse my kid. She knows I love her. Right. Is she getting her own breakfast at 4 years old? You know what I mean? Is she fixing her own cereal? I mean, what's going on at home, Mom? So I'm just so blessed that she didn't get taken away from me. My mom took care of her, so that was great. But, it's a weird predicament to be in, being a foster mom that was the kid that was the mom.
But Judith, that's
So
why I
can see
think
the whole
that
thing.
Lauri does such powerful
Yeah.
work, is because there's no judgment.
Right.
And these kids feel loved.
But don't you think that's the biggest message in all of this stuff is the judgment thing? I mean, we live in, and Andrew and I are constantly talking. The
shame.
There's this. I had somebody call me up, somebody that relapsed the other night, got in a car accident right away, and I'm like saying to him, please come back to rehab. And he won't because of pride.
No,
He's
it's a
scared
killer.
of and I'm like, but you're calling, and I was honored that he called me, and I was honored that he's calling people, but it's this alcoholic, drug addict, this crazy pride to not want to reach out.
I think it's fear about when to come in, and
Yeah.
generally you just push hard enough they come.
The chip thing turns out to be like a race. You know what I
You
mean?
and
In the
Andrew actually.
beginning.
So you and Andrew
I
They're like,
yeah,
okay,
you and
let's give
Andrew
them a reward.
are
right?
so on this.
Yeah.
I'm big with the
And then it's
sobriety
like, wait
date,
a minute,
but
yeah.
it's every day in LA. It's like, here's a new chip.
I think it's a curse.
Yeah, you have more
Yeah.
people that have chips in LA. I
Yeah.
mean, because
Yeah.
if people are listening, we're talking about in meetings they give out newcomer chips.
Gambling
to people.
addicts use them for
Yeah.
poker.
Yeah, you're right. There actually was a bar in New York, I believe it was called, I don't want to say the name, but that if you came in with like a 90-day sober chip, they would give you a free
Oh,
drink.
Oh, my Lanta.
And and let me just say, I know, and this isn't like I didn't never used it, but I know a lot of people that would go to meetings and get
Just
the
get some
chips,
chips.
Oh my
just to
God.
get some chips. Yeah,
That's insane. But I think people are like, well, I had 4 years, so, I can't come back as a
Right.
newcomer. It's like, I think the chip thing was meant as a reward in the
Yeah.
beginning to help you, know you're doing a good job.
Right.
And it turns into like some kind of race.
Yeah.
And
Right.
people are
Well,
dying.
also that people
because
assume
they
that
don't have the
because
time
people have been
anymore.
sober for a long time, they have some sort of special knowledge that they don't necessarily.
Right.
And
Right.
especially, one person is not the same as the other. So people that have underlying mental health issues or trauma issues that person didn't have, they may have just been a chronic alcoholic. They're not in a position to really be an authority for that other person. Let's take a call. We got another call. We got William from Long Beach. William, welcome to KLEAN Radio.
welcome, William.
Thank you. I just have a question. Have any of you ever seen somebody become sober because a friend or family member sat them down and said, I'm concerned for your life?
All the time.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
It actually is a great question.
I mean, that's it's that sense of hope
Yeah.
and that sense of
done the right way.
well, you've done
Yeah.
the right way. I
Right.
mean, I certainly Look, there's all sorts of ways for people to get help, and there's all sorts of ways that people communicate with each other. I think the intent is generally always good. If communication is the most important thing, but also being educated about what you say and how you say it is probably almost more important than sitting down first. So, I think getting the proper knowledge, either, through a volunteer group or through seeing a therapist or
interventionist.
Using an interventionist.
And I'm an interventionist. I get calls all the time, and it's all free consultation and just walking somebody through.
William, is there somebody in your life right now that's going through this?
Well, obviously, there's more than one, but a couple are at the top of the list because I'm literally concerned for their life.
Right. Well, that's generally what brings people, they get to the point where they get so frustrated and they get past the anger and then they start having fear about what's going to happen to their loved ones, and that's when they reach out.
Have you tried to call a professional, William, to do an intervention maybe?
I consider you guys a professional, but the only thing is, no, I'm not going to do an intervention. It's not right in this circumstance.
Okay.
But I believe I've gone to an Al-Anon meeting. I should go back to that. They stress don't approach the addict.
Well, I think I don't know where you heard that
or
from,
what Al-Anon meeting.
or what that's a strange one for me. My thing is, the longer you wait, the more risk you're taking. Every day that somebody's out there abusing drugs or alcohol at the point where they could potentially kill themselves or someone else through drunk driving or an accident.
Heroin, you could die at that instant.
There's no time to waste, really.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that you immediately seek help. And, if nothing else, just call our support line right now. We have people that can help you and
absolutely free of
charge and hook you up with other therapists or help you out with us here at KLEAN. And we're here you're in Long Beach, so we're in West Hollywood, so we can help you out with it. And we have a whole network of people.
And William, what I think you're referring to is you do hear this a lot. It's this notion of tough love, and Andrew and I are not, proponents of it. We're not a big fans.
I'm going to hand off. I'm going to hand off William to our producer so that he can get the number to call the treatment line.
But let's talk about that quickly.
But then we'll get back. We'll talk about it. Okay, William. So we're going to hand you off and just get you some help. Okay.
Thank you, William.
All right. Thanks, William.
I want to tell people out there that are listening right now, if you have a loved one or somebody that's sick or dying of alcoholism or any of this stuff, if they're alive, there's a chance. Mm-hmm. If you decide to kick somebody out in the street or push them away more, their chances of getting sober sometimes are a lot less. That's just our belief and our opinion. We're about love. We're about, no matter how many times you try this. Abraham Lincoln, failed at 100 businesses. Finally, he was successful at one. Nobody said to him, hey, you're a failed businessman. After the 100, they said, wow, what a successful businessman. But we don't look at that with addiction because we get personally offended by it. It's like nobody uses at you. If your son is using heroin, he's not doing it. He's sick. It's not a personal thing. And
I think people feel it personally.
Oh, they do
and I think the emotions surrounding addiction are so clouded by so many other factors in our society, and we can't sort of escape the puritanical kind of roots and that our country was built on, mixed with this weird sort of mixture of individualism and I can do whatever I want. So you have these two opposing forces.
Mass confusion.
Yeah, that sort of, together make the American character, the individualist, and, but yet we still have this caring, puritanical, almost culture. It's a very strange mix.
It's not in this studio.
Full of contradictions. And not in this studio.
Nobody's pure in this studio.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
You know what? I want to ask Jane how she got involved, because we haven't really heard, what brought you to
What about
this
Jane?
field?
I was working in some treatment centers after getting sober myself. I was a stockbroker and got out of that because there was too many triggers.
Well, that's gambling, right?
Yes.
Legal.
Yes, and too many martini lunches.
Right.
So I was in Malibu, and I was at a speaker meeting, and Lauri was the speaker.
Oh.
And I've been in and out of AA myself for 20 some odd years. And it was the most powerful story I had ever heard. And you could hear a pin drop in that meeting. And I went back to work, and all of a sudden a friend of mine said, you know what, I have a book from this lady, Laurie Burns. Do you want to read it? Because he knew I liked books. And I said, of course. So I started reading it.
The book was Punished for Purpose.
Punished for Purpose. And the book is incredible. as Lauri is incredible. And I called her up, asked her to go to lunch, and just tagged on because I realized in my own sobriety what helped me stay sober, because I relapsed many times, is being of service.
Right.
And it was super simple. Just help somebody else get out of yourself. And tagged on to Lauri, and we are able to help people. And I now do work in treatment centers, interventions, whatever, do most of it free of charge.
That's great.
Because it helps me stay sober and
That's
alive.
amazing.
And Lauri is an absolute angel.
You guys are
Yeah,
great.
Jane's been a godsend.
Yeah?
Really, she has. I mean, if you knew.
We got God since we had angels.
I know.
We're changing the formula here.
We're a very divine studio.
Well, we talked about it on the break,
The
but
halos are crooked.
I was saying at a meeting the other day. You know, I work full time
Right.
in Northrop Grumman in
Right.
El Segundo, so that's a full time job. I have to commute an hour each way, and then I'm working on several other projects, and I'm running the team project pretty much by myself. I've got the volunteers, but I'm doing all of the orchestration from the
It's insane.
the banking, the fundraising, the employees, everything.
And we're going to talk about that in a
So-
second, because
Sounds
I want people out there to donate tonight, and I want to tell them right now. But we have plenty of time. But what's the website so people could go before the show ends?
It's www.theteenproject.com. The
And-
teen like teenagers, so the Teen Project.
And I beg of people, give. It's the holiday time, and listen. No offense to the homeless. Again, they've got plenty of food donations.
Oh, we're talking about homeless
Right, we're
teens.
talking about homeless teens. I know, but I'm talking about the elderly homeless. Give to the Teen Project. No offense to the
Elderly homeless.
elderly homeless.
Give to them too.
Yeah, let's get to everybody. But go right now. Go to the Teen Project and give.
And the great thing about the Teen Project, again, is that 100% of the proceeds,
Yeah.
everything goes to the teens.
That's great. So is there an endowment that covers all the administrative costs, or?
We have very few administrative costs. We have one full-time employee and a part-time employee, and I'm a donor as well. So the board pretty much takes care of the employees. We get almost everything we can donated. There are organizations all over the place. There's a
So the
place that does
facility in
food. Our
Venice
food
and
is
So
free.
what can you
donated?
give?
That's
Clothing?
amazing.
No, the donating. You're talking about the rent at
Yeah.
the Venice place. No,
Right.
we get that from people that live in Venice
That's
that want the
amazing.
place to keep on going because
That's
they see
fantastic.
we've taken 32 kids off the street in 6 months.
Wow.
In Venice,
Jeez.
there's a lot of places that'll give you food, they'll give you a shower, they'll give you medical care, but we're taking on the job. We're taking on your life. So there are people that live in Venice that say they're seeing the kids that they knew on the street now becoming engineers, becoming beauticians,
Amazing.
going to school, and they're like, wait a minute, these people are really giving them a life. They're gone now from the street. They come back and visit, but they're not there anymore.
And you think about
So-
it, one of the things, I worked in mental health for a lot longer before I got into substance abuse. I had 9 psychiatric hospitals throughout the Gulf South, and then I switched over to substance abuse and psychiatric care. And one of the things that sort of always amazed me was that, I never really thought that, people understood that, like with schizophrenia, people were very smart, very intelligent, their lives were going well, and then they would,
In age
early
20s.
onset, 20s, they would lose everything. And it's the all that investment that we make in children growing up, and then they finally become productive citizens, and they're not able to. And I think this is very similar in that, here's kids who we're trying to get them through a system, but then we abandon them right at the point where they,
I mean, it's
Exactly.
they
criminal.
begin to
Yeah,
become...
I agree.
Yeah.
It is totally
It's criminal.
It's wasting
how-
a whole life.
And you know what?
So
I would
true.
bet that most Americans don't know. Like when you hear someone talk about, oh, there was a kid that was being abused, but now they're in foster care. It's like, there's safety.
No, I never
know what I
think
mean?
that.
Right?
Honestly, when I hear
All right.
foster care, sometimes I'm more nervous.
All right, okay.
Because I understand that people do it to get.
But nobody knows. I mean, I talk to people all day, every day, and nobody knows they're dumping him out at 18. This is like a secret,
Yeah.
okay? Really? Are you doing such a good job? Because you took him in from this really abusive place. You told him you'd love him, you'd care for him. They're okay now. They're with a safe family. On their 18th
Well, this is
birthday,
the difference
other kids
between
are like
adoption
going,
and foster
Yeah.
care, right?
Yeah,
That people
But you
confuse a lot.
think, but
right?
you
Like-
seriously.
But
Yes,
other
they
kids
do.
are like
Right.
getting in
You would-
limos
you
and
would
going
think.
like thinking about college, and our
that's
kids
the
are getting thrown
scariest
on
thing.
the
You
street.
would think that these foster parents, I mean, that's what people are thinking,
Yeah.
going, well, if they have them, they're going to keep them, or they're going to,
Not if
continue
they
on.
can't pay their rent anymore
Right,
because
and
they're
that's-
relying on the money.
But let's talk about that, though.
Yeah.
What's the difference between foster care and adoption?
Well, adoption's forever, right?
Yeah.
Right? Is it?
Yeah.
Foster is
Yeah, I don't
Or-
think you could rescind your adoption, can you?
Well, you can, yeah.
Unless there's a movie
Yeah.
Problem
Right.
Child.
But
think you can at
someone in
some
foster
level,
care
right?
can be moved
You get a
against
good
their
attorney,
will,
you can do
right?
anything,
I
right?
mean,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah. I mean, it's a much less stable environment. If you're in foster care, you never really know day to day where you're going to be.
Yep.
You don't know where you're going to. Well,
That's
I mean,
horrible.
hopefully you're in the same home for a little while, but you don't know where you're going to. I mean, like one of my kids that has been very successful now, she's grown up, said she felt like a dog at the puppy shop, just coming in and looking at her at the window because they'd call in foster parents and come and meet her and decide if you want her or not. I was one of those parents, and the first time I met her, I wasn't interested in her because she was so negative and I don't want help and I don't care. But 6 months later, when nobody would take her, they called me back, and I went and got her, and she's very successful handbag designer now. But she was very depressed,
That's not Monica Lewinsky, right?
No.
If you just tuned in, you're listening
You know,
to KLEAN Radio.
yeah.
Give us a call at 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We're running out of time. You could find all our past shows at KLEANradio.com. Go ahead and like us on Facebook. We're in the studio tonight with Lauri Burns and Jane Dawson from the Teen Project. And it's essentially an organization that saves teenagers, saves kids that have timed out of foster care. You're getting them off the streets and you're saving their lives.
Right. And also to let you know, since we have people all over listening, we have a national text home program where any youth in the nation could text the word shelter and their zip code to the short code 99,000, and then within 40 seconds will return a shelter to their phone. Of course, anyone could use this service, but it's especially there for kids, and it's free. We pay for it so that any kid anywhere in the United States that's cold, hungry, and needs a safe place to go right now could text shelter and their zip code.
What type of donations do you guys take?
Only private donations from private foundations, corporations, and people. We get
Individuals.
little.
No, but I mean,
yeah.
is it just money or is it food or is
Everything.
Oh, we
it?
take everything.
So it's shelter
Right.
space zip code
Shelter space zip
Zip
code
code.
to
Okay.
99,000.
99,000.
What do you
Okay,
guys
great.
have planned for Christmas over there?
Well, we have a lot of planning for Christmas. We just had a party a couple days ago. We have another party coming up next weekend in Orange County, and then a really big party in
Venice.
LA on the 28th. And, we take donations from everywhere. Like you're talking about administration costs. We get food donated. We get printing donated. We get
This year we
supplies.
created a target list.
Oh,
So
yes.
we had our donors go on this target list and purchase all these items. So we got to go wrap them.
So you can just go on and purchase socks or a shirt, but there's 350 items, and my garage is filling up quickly.
Yeah.
And these
great.
kids will
That's
get
fun.
piles of presents because
great.
people from all over the United States have said, I'll buy something. I'll buy a shirt.
So what's your plans for growth? I mean, obviously you have a
Right.
program that's
500
working.
volunteers.
And I've never heard of a program like it. Were
Right.
you inspired by another program, or is this all your thinking?
AA is what I was inspired by.
Uh-huh.
And I was inspired by people, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mother
Right.
Teresa,
So you
people that have
created
done
this
big things.
from your life experience.
Right, from my life experience
So
of
are
watching
you
world
looking to
leaders.
expand this?
Yes, we are. Right now we've got several homes with children in them. We've got the text home program. We've got a national online database. We're mentoring women in 22 other states. In the next year we'll build a cottage, a village where kids will live in Katrina-like cottages
Right.
in a village, and they'll go to school, and we'll bring a lot of the schooling into the center.
That's a
And
great
we're
idea.
also looking to expand our program through national mentoring, and I'm working with foster care counts on that. So we'll be doing mentoring online, like a virtual mentoring between a mentor and a youth that's still in the foster care system to try and prepare them for life by taking online courses on how to fix a car, how to budget, how to rent an apartment, and
Life
then
skills.
rewarding them with
Do they still
gift
have
cards
those
and
programs
things.
in school? I was actually thinking about this the other day.
For vocational?
Yeah, do they have any of this stuff in schools anymore? Do kids still have to get a bank account in school?
My
I know
daughter's
there's-
a freshman. She hasn't
No.
had any of those.
I mean, so this isn't
offered.
even this is an insane issue we got going on. We got
Yeah.
a bunch of
You
kids
don't know how to
growing
live.
up that-
Yeah.
Well, I mean, our whole economy's
Yeah.
changed. We moved from a
Yeah.
manufacturing and to pure service economy, basically, and then
So true.
high-end finance.
I mean, just the simplest things that you think they'd know. One of my kids was like, I was looking at a truck the other day, and I think I want it, and it was, oh God, I can't forget. I
Right.
can't remember what it's called, but one of these, it's going to cost her $100 to fill this thing up, but she doesn't have any idea what gas costs.
Right.
You don't have any idea what apartment costs. So you're looking at what you're
Or
taking
utilities,
in.
And do
Yeah.
you believe
Yeah.
this a lot has to do with, and I was talking about this the other night, and I was saying, we live in a society, sadly, where so many people have cell phones, cars,
Well, and our
cable,
government gives such
but
a
no
bad
health
example. I mean,
insurance.
we have national. We're about to have this physical
none of the
debt
kids have health
crisis.
insurance.
Everybody-
Yeah, but they have everything else. They have better iPhones and better shoes than I do, but
right.
no health insurance.
No, I
that's-
gotta tell
well,
you-
know, the
Yeah.
funny thing is that's sort of like the hidden positives of technological growth. Like we have negative inflation, we have deflation, and the cost of goods that have been growing, like flat screen TVs. But everything else, the basic necessities of life, like food, power, energy, gas, housing, they've gone up astronomically and above the standard inflation rate. So you have this actually greater level of inflation because you have deflation in consumer products and goods.
True.
As we've outsourced it to manufacturing overseas and technology's improved and gotten cheaper.
Well, you know, one of the things that we realized about technology is homeless kids, as compared to homeless adults, they care about having a phone more than they do food because they grew up on technology, and that's
Right.
why we started the Text Home program.
That's
because as
amazing.
we got to know the kids, we realized each one of these homeless kids has a phone.
Well, it's their whole
They could
social
be
life.
texting. That's
Exactly.
right.
That is
so
one of
they
the.
can text shelter
it's-
and get
That's
home.
actually great, though. You
Right.
know, maybe that's a new program, giving
Right.
homeless kids phones. You know, so they could get into contact with people.
I'm telling
like
you, they have phones. That's
Yeah.
all they care about. They will. They
How does-
call it fly a flag, you know,
Right.
to get money to say I'm hungry, and they'll buy a phone with
Fly a
it.
sign.
And that's why a fly a sign. Sorry,
Fly
did I
sign.
say fly a flag?
Because they're all hip on the lingo.
Yeah, because yeah.
By the
Yeah,
way, we're
'cause
running out of time, and I want
Yeah.
to give out your info again. We're in the studio tonight with Lauri Burns from the Teen Project, Jane Dawson from the Teen Project. Lauri's written a book called Punish for Purpose. I beg of people to go to Amazon, get this book. I'm going to have you back because an hour is too short for you. How do people donate? How do people find you guys once again?
Go to our website, www.theteenproject.com, and you hit the donate link, and you can go through there.
Make sure
or
they
you
know
could-
it's teen, T-E-N.
Right, it's the THE teen TEEN project.com.
And you can get it on Facebook. If you go to KLEAN, Facebook/KLEAN Radio, you can, we'll have it all posted up.
Yeah, and
there.
I'd really
People
like to
click
put it
on
on our KLEAN Radio site because I want people to give, and I really want people out there that are listening. And I want to thank you guys both.
Thank
Yeah, thank
you.
you both.
Thank
Andrew,
you.
it's great to have you back.
Yeah, and everybody have a good holiday. Hopefully I'll be back next Sunday.
We shall
If
see.
not, Judah will be here, my trusty sidekick, no matter what. He's on the radio.
Haven't missed a day. The discussion continues at KLEANRadio.com. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
week.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, KLEANTreatmentCenter.com.